The Nguyen lords were a series of rulers of southern Vietnam. While they claimed to be the loyal followers of the later La dynasty, in reality they were de facto rulers in the south of the country. While the Trinh lords ruled the north, their descendants later ruled the whole of Vietnam as the Nguyen dynasty and posthumously elevated their titles to emperors. Their rule consolidated earlier southward expansion into Kampa. The Nguyen Trinh alliance. The Nguyen lords traced their descent from a powerful clan originally based in Thanh Hoa province. The clan supported Lưu Ly in his successful War of Independence against the Ming dynasty. From that point on, the Nguyen were one of the major noble families in Vietnam. Perhaps the most famous Nguyen from this time was Nguyen Thianh, the queen consort for nearly 20 years. In 1527 Mac Thang Dung replaced the last La Emperor La Kung Hoang and started a new dynasty. The Trinh and Nguyen clans returned to Thanh Hoa province and refused to accept the rule of the Mac. All of the region south of the Red River was under their control, but they were unable to conquer Thong Ngo for many years. During this time, the Nguyen Trinh alliance was led by Nguyen Kim. His daughter was married to the Trinh clan leader, Trinh Kiem. In 1545 Nguyen Kim was assassinated. One logical successor to the leadership of the Nguyen Trinh alliance was his eldest son, Nguyen Ong, but instead, Ong was killed and Trinh Kiem took control. The younger son Nguyen Hoang was sent to the far south to administer the newer province of O Chow, in what used to be Kampa lands. Governing from the new city of Phu Shan, the Nguyen clan, under Nguyen Hoang, slowly expanded their control to the south while the Trinh clan waged their war for control over the north of Vietnam. In 1592 Thong Ngo was captured the last time by the Trinh army under Trinh Tung and the Mac Emperor was executed. The next year, Nguyen Hoang came north with an army and money to help defeat the remainder of the Mac forces. But soon afterwards Nguyen Hoang refused to obey the orders coming from the new court at Hanoi, rising tensions. In 1600, a new La emperor took the throne, La Kin Tong. The new emperor, like the previous La emperors, was a powerless figurehead under the control of Trinh Tung. Also, a revolt broke out in Ninh Binh province, possibly instigated by the Trinh. As a consequence of these events, Nguyen Hoang formally broke off relations with the court, rightly arguing that it was the Trinh who ruled, not the La emperor. This uneasy state of affairs continued for the next 13 years until Nguyen Hoang died in 1613. He had ruled the southern provinces for 55 years. His successor, Nguyen Phuc Nguyen, continued Nguyen Hoang's policy of essential independence from the court in Hanoi. He initiated friendly relations with the Europeans who were now sailing into the area. A Portuguese trading post was set up in Hoi An. By 1615 the Nguyen were producing their own bronze cannons with the aid of Portuguese engineers. In 1620 the emperor was removed from power and executed by Trinh Tung. Nguyen Phuc Nguyen formally announced that he would not be sending any money to the court, nor did he acknowledge the new emperor as the emperor of the country. Tensions rose over the next 7 years till open warfare broke out in 1627 with the new leader of the Trinh, Trinh Trang. The war lasted until 1673 when peace was declared. Around 1620, Nguyen Phuc Nguyen's daughter married Chachet II, a Khmer king. 3 years later, 1623, the Nguyen formally gained permission for Vietnamese to settle in Prien Nocor, which was later reborn as the city of Saigon. When the war with the Trinh ended, the Nguyen were able to put more resources into pushing suppression of the Kampa kingdoms and conquest of lands which used to belong to the Khmer Empire. Wars over the south. In 1714 the Nguyen sent an army into Cambodia to support Kiofa's claim the throne against Preostri Tommy. Siam joined in siding with the Preostri Tommy against the Vietnamese claimant. At Ban Thia Mes the Vietnamese routed the Siamese armies, but by 1717 the Siamese had gained the upper hand. The war ended with the negotiated enthronement of the Siamese candidate, but the Nguyen lords wrested more territory from the weakened Cambodian kingdom. 2 decades later the Cambodians attempted to reclaim the lost coastal land. The fighting lasted some 10 years, but by end, the Vietnamese fended off the Cambodian raids and secured their hold on the rich Mekong Delta. With Siam embroiled in war with Burma, the Nguyen mounted another campaign against Cambodia in 1755 and conquered additional territory from the ineffective Cambodian court. At the end of the war the Nguyen had secured a port on the Gulf of Siam and were threatening Phnom Penh itself. Under a new king Phra Takhson, the Siamese reasserted its protection of its eastern neighbor by coming to the aid of the Cambodian court. War was launched against the Nguyen in 1769. After some early success, the Nguyen forces by 1773 were facing internal revolts and had to abandon Cambodia to deal with the civil war in Vietnam itself. The turmoil gave rise to the Tay Son, the fall of the Nguyen lords. In 1771, as a result of heavy taxes and defeats in the war with Cambodia, 3 brothers from Tay Son sparked a peasant uprising that quickly engulfed much of southern Vietnam. Within 2 years the Tay Son brothers captured the provincial capital Quang. In 1774, the Trinh in Hanoi, seeing their rival gravely weakened, ended the 100-year truce and launched an attack of the Nguyen from the north. The Trinh forces quickly overran the Nguyen capital in 1774, while the Nguyen lords fled south to Saigon. The Nguyen fought on against both the Trinh army and the Tay Son, but their effort was in vain. By 1777 Saigon was captured and then nearly the entire Nguyen Phuc family was killed. All except one nephew, Nguyen who managed to flee to Siam. Nguyen did not give up, and in 1780 he attacked the Tay Son army with a new army from Siam. However, Takhson went insane and was killed in a coup. The new king of Siam, Chulalongkorn, had more urgent affairs than helping Nguyen retake Vietnam, and so this campaign faltered. The Siamese army retreated, and Nguyen went into exile, but would later return. Nguyen foreign relations. The Nguyen were significantly more open to foreign trade and communication with Europeans than the Trinh. According to Dupuy, the Nguyen were able to defeat initial Trinh attacks with the aid of advanced weapons they purchased from the Portuguese. The Nguyen also conducted fairly extensive trade with Japan and China. The Portuguese set up a trade center at Phi Pho, just south of Hue in 1615. However, with the end of the Great War between the Trinh and the Nguyen, the need for European military equipment declined. The Portuguese trade center never became a major European base. In 1640, Alexandre de Rhodes returned to Vietnam, this time to the Nguyen court at Hue. He began work on converting people to the Catholic faith in building churches. After 6 years, the Nguyen Lord, Nguyen Phu clan, came to the same conclusion as Trinh Trang had, that de Rhodes and the Catholic Church represented a threat to their rule. De Rhodes was condemned to death, but he was allowed to leave Vietnam on pain of death were he to return. List of the Nguyen lords. Nguyen Hoang 1558–1613 Nguyen Phuc Nguyen 1613 to 1635. Nguyen Phuc Lan 1635 to 1648. Nguyen Phuc Tien 1648 to 1687. Nguyen Phuc Tran 1687 to 1691. Nguyen Phuc Chu 1691 to 1725. Nguyen Phuc Tiau 1725 to 1738. Nguyen Phuc Coat 1738 to 1765. Nguyen Phuc Thuan 1765 to 1777. Nguyen Phuc Anh 1778 to 1801. Family tree.